We've done some recent shows about why it makes sense to claim Social Security as early as possible. And a lot of people are latching onto this idea of claiming Social Security early. What's early? Before your full retirement age, which for most people that are watching is age 67. The problem is, and just imagine if you do, let's say you're 63 and you go to claim Social Security early, you might start hearing people chirping and saying, oh, don't forget about the earnings limit. And you say, whoa, 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 what's that? What's that? The earnings limit has to do with earning income while also claiming Social Security. And because you're claiming Social Security early, it matters. And the government gets involved. So today I want to explain what the earnings limit is and explain how you can work and claim Social Security. There are rules about it. I want to go through the rules, make sure you understand it. What is income? What isn't income? How much can you make? What's the limits? But most importantly, I want to talk about what happens to that money that you don't get, that the government withholds. A lot of people think it's gone. Some people think you get it when you fully retire. It's a combination. It's not that easy. Speaking of being not easy, let me bring in my co-host, Tony Shore. Tony, welcome to the show. We're talking about the earnings limit. You know what's very popular lately has been our show on claiming Social Security early.
Yeah.
Right? Early being 62 or before 67.
Lots of
And
people are claiming at 62, Dan, because of a number of things. They're either worried that Social Security isn't going to be around, so they want to claim it as soon as possible, or they do it because they heard you talk about positives to claiming early, or most of them just do it because their neighbor did it, or someone they respect. Oh, this guy at work, he's a sharp cookie, and he said I got to claim at 62.
Yeah. And when they do it, then they get hit with this earnings limit that they didn't think about. So I want to talk about it today. But if you haven't seen our show on claiming it early at 62 and why you should, watch it. But when you're thinking about that, make sure you're also considering the earnings limit. So let me first start by saying this can get confusing because when I say earnings limit, people don't necessarily know what I mean. There's usually three different things that people get it confused with.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the retirement earnings test, which has to do with claiming Social Security early and also making income. So you're still working and claiming Social Security. That's what we're going to talk about today. But a lot of people confuse the earnings limit with the taxable wage base, which right this year, 2026, is 184,500, meaning that's how much of your income, that's a limit on your income that's taxed for Social Security purposes. So your wages, you pay into Social Security. Once you hit above 184,500, you don't pay into Social Security anymore. So people think that's the earnings limit. That's not what we're talking about. That's a separate rule. And a lot of people also get it confused with the $24,000 earnings taxation limit, meaning your income when you start claiming Social Security can be taxed if you make above a certain amount. That's taxable amount of Social Security income. That's a separate issue too. We've done shows on that. You know, if you make below a certain amount, all of your Social Security income is tax free. Once you get above a 24,000 as a single person, now half of it's almost, it's taxable up to half. And then once you get above another limit, 32,000, then 85% of it's taxable. So that's not what we're talking about today. But I just wanted to bring those up as don't be confused about those. Yeah. Today we're talking about the earnings limit of working and claiming Social Security. Okay.
Yeah. So, I have a great example when you're ready for it of the problem with the earnings limit.
Let me explain what the limits are, and then I want to hear your example. Yep. So in 2026, the earnings limit, if you're under your full retirement age, so if you're under age 67 for most of you, you can work and claim Social Security. And if you make more than $24,480 for the year, anything you make above that, half of it's going to be withheld from your Social Security check. $1 of every two you make above that. Then once you reach the year you turn 67 or your full retirement age, the limit jumps up to 65,160, and then they withhold one for every three above that. And then once you hit your full retirement age, you can claim Social Security and you can earn as much as you want. They're not going to withhold anything from your Social Security check. I'll give you a quick example, and then I want to hear yours, Tony. So if you claim at 62 and you're getting $1,200 a month from Social Security, that's your reduced benefit amount. Yet you're still working and you earn $30,000, You're above the limit. In fact, you're $5,520 above the limit of what the government says you should earn. This is all set by the government, by the way. They're saying you shouldn't be claiming Social Security and working. It's supposed to be a retired benefit. Whatever. So you're claiming you're making more than the amount that they allow, 5,520 amount. You're making 2760 is going to be withheld from your Social Security check. The first 2,760 in this example will be withheld from your check. And they don't just take it out of a little bit out of every Social Security check. They simply won't give you the first two checks. They won't give you that first check of $1,200. They won't give you the second check of $1,200. So that's $2,400. And then they won't give you $360 of the third check. And then you'll start getting the rest of the checks normally. So that's how they withhold the earnings. That's if you disobey the earnings limit or you go above it. Again, philosophically, they just don't want you to work and claim Social Security. That's what they're trying to prevent. You have an example of someone.
I have a great example. A really good friend of mine, my next door neighbor, who lived next to us for a long time, since moved, but a really good friend. One of the smartest people I know, was an engineer, helped both Florida's and Minnesota's state court system go electronic. No more paper records for court documents. He did it for Florida years ago, and then he came to Minnesota and did it here and worked with the Supreme Court on projects like that. The state Supreme Court, I should say. And he made good money, right? 6 figures plus. He made really good money, but he, for some reason, smart, but stubborn. For some reason, he got it into his head that somebody at work told him, you take Social Security at 62. He was worried about it not being there, worried about politics. But he worked until he was 70, Dan. And he made at least $200,000 a year. So what do you think happened to him?
He claimed it early. He didn't see a single check, did he?
No. He did not.
And did he ask you, why am I not getting my checks? I claimed it. I'm not getting any.
No, in fact, if we got along great, but the one time he got angry with me is when I said, I said, you should never file. You shouldn't file you shouldn't have filed at 62. I don't want to, because he had already, it was too late. See, when I talked to him, and he goes, I don't want to talk about that. Because he had found out the hard way. He was very upset and didn't want anyone to mention. If you mentioned the word Social Security to him, he got ticked, because he ended up having to work because his wife was much younger and wasn't eligible for Medicare, and he had great health care benefits because he was working for the state. So but they wouldn't cover him or his wife if he quit. So they looked at the cost of that, and he was making money, so he just kept working, and they wanted to put in a pool, so he kept working, and
and it's a case where it probably would have made sense for him to delay all the way to age 70 to protect him, and
because he worked till age 70,
he worked, right?
And he's kicking it. I mean, he's doing well health wise, so he's still active. So he's one that would have really benefited at this point. I think he's going to have no problem making it past the sweet spot, the break-even point. And he couldn't touch that money anyway. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he didn't get the checks.
No.
But now there's going to be people that aren't making the 6 figures that are claiming Social Security, and in this example, they're making $30,000, so they're slightly over. And they might be saying, well, all right, they're going to withhold $2,760 from me. That's crap. That's my money. And the government's just going to take it? Well, no. Let's get into first what counts as income, because this also confuses a lot of people. In your case, your friend was working. That's clear. He's got W-2 wages, including bonuses and commissions.
Yes.
That counts as income. So you can easily see how that makes sense. All right, that's earnings. But a lot of people say, well, I'm a 1099. I don't pay into it. I don't pay into Social Security, so I shouldn't be withheld. No, net self-employment profit after expenses counts as income as well. So they're looking at it. If you're running a small business and you make profit, that profit counts as earnings. And if you're claiming Social Security, you could find yourself above the limit. But what doesn't count is pensions, annuity payments, investments, distributions from your IRA, in interest, capital gains, government benefits if you get a VA pension. Here's the deal. People think, oh my goodness, I want to retire at 62. I want to claim Social Security, but I need money to live. That's not enough. So I'm going to pull from my IRA. Now I'm above the limit because my income is high. No, they're worried about earned income, people working, not taking out from retirement income or taking a pension. Okay, so people get that confused. This alleviates a lot of people's concern. But that gray area of 1099 income, I put it on here specifically. If you're going to have net employment earnings, if you're a contractor, say, it does count. It accounts after you take your expenses. But if you have pure passive income from 1099, dividends, interest, capital gains, a lot of people have rental properties. If you just have dividend rental income coming and you're not really managing it, if you're actively engaged in running a management company, yeah, that's income. But if you just have a rental property and you're just not really doing anything with it and you're just getting that income, that's not considered the income that counts toward this earnings limit. Doesn't count. So that's important. But now let's go back to the fact that people do take it early because they have a reason to, right? We've gone through countless reasons why you should take it early for some people. And let's say they do go over the limit, but what about someone that retires mid-year? Right? Or they're going to take it at 62 and their birthday's in July. Okay, what about that? I earned a big paycheck in the beginning of the year and now I'm retired. Why should my income? I didn't take Social Security and earn. I stopped working. But you're saying my annual income, I made $100,000 in the first 6 months of the year. That now I'm going to not see any paycheck this year when I'm retired? No, they make an exception in this case. They look at your monthly income. So it's say roughly $2,000 a month. If you stop working or work part-time and you made a big chunk of change in the beginning of the year, they look at going forward from when you retire, when you actually start claiming. They don't look at that past. So they give you a little bit of a leeway there.
That's good. But Dan, if you're everybody's like, file at 62, you'll get more checks. You got to get what you can, but you're locking in the lowest possible amount. It's like a 30% reduction.
30% at 62, yeah.
And if you're not going to stop, if you're not going to retire until 67 or 70, you probably don't want to do that, right? Is what you're saying.
Probably not. But if you do, because you say, I'm only going to work part-time and I'm going to work below. Here's what happened. We just did our last show, Tony.
Because you don't have to work very much to go over the $24,000 limit.
Right. I mean, no, $2,000 a month.
Yeah, that's a part-time job. Yeah.
Especially if you're retiring from a full-time job and going part-time, you could still easily get above 24,000, right?
Right.
If you stay below it, then none of this matters. But we're talking about the people that do go above that. And here's a prime example of someone that could, Tony. You and I just did a show last week about how people need to plan for what they're going to do with their time, right? Because they can go into that disenchantment phase. If you haven't seen it, that's the big thing that people don't talk about. They don't talk about it because they're like, oh, retirement's great. Financials they worry about, but they don't think about what they're going to do and they get bored, right?
Right.
What happens when people get bored?
Yeah.
They don't have a purpose. They wind up going back to work. And like you're a friend, for example, he takes it at 62 and now he's 63 and a half. A year and a half's gone by. Honeymoon phase is over. Disenchantment phase has been going on for 7 months. He's ready to he wakes up in tears and he's like, I got to go back. So he goes back to work and he's like, well, I'm not going to work for free. I'm going to be working, 40 hours a week. I better get my 100,000, right? All of a sudden Social Security is gone because now he's way over the limit. He can't undo it because it's within the first year. So you can't stop claiming until you hit your full retirement age. So he's in this trap. He's stuck, which is why he doesn't want to talk to you about it because he's stuck. Right. What happens to those benefits? Prime example, people get upset. They said the government's taking it. I'm gone. All my money. I'm never going to see it. No, you do see it. They're not permanently lost. That's a misconception. And they get restored automatically for you when you hit your full retirement age. So all those checks that are withheld are going to come back to you when you finally hit 67 or your full retirement age.
Right.
Right. But it doesn't come back as a lump sum. That's, that would be great, right? It would be like, hey, we withheld, $20,000 a year for the past 3 years from you. Here's a check for $60,000. That's a nice little chunk, right? No. And it's not spread against your lifetime. It's not like they look at the actuary tables and say, here's your new life expectancy. We're going to give it to you a little bit. No. It's done very differently, and people have no idea how this works. So hopefully they'll figure this out now. So now going back to your example, Tony, you've retired early, you claim Social Security early, but then you're working and you've been getting checks withheld from you, and you're like, where's that money going? You might have a little journal. They didn't give me my checks. I missed 12 checks in the past 3 years. I want my money, right? So how does it come back to you? When you hit your full retirement age, Social Security is going to recalculate your monthly benefit. They do it all every year. And your monthly benefit, remember, is your top 35 years history in a formula that they use based on your earnings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on your age. So they recalculate it and say, okay, because you could be working and increasing your Social Security as well, because you're raising those 35 years. You may have some zeros you're replacing from age 62 to 67, right? So you want the recalculation. What they do is they say, okay, Tony, you took your benefit at 62. You're getting a 25% decrease for life. And you're like, I know, because that's what I'm going to do, right? Talk to Dan, and this is the plan. You go back to work, and it turns out you make too much money. And the government withheld 12 checks from you, a year's worth of checks that you never saw. 3 checks a year were withheld to you for 4 years. And you're like, I want that money back. What the government does is say, okay, you're 67, Tony. Let's look at it. Let's recalculate it. According to our records, you took it at 62. So you get a 25% reduction. But we also withheld 12 months of checks from you. So we're going to recalculate it. And instead of saying you took it at 62, we're going to say you took it at 63, because you didn't get those 1 year of checks. So now they're going to recalculate your benefit based on your primary insurance amount, your full retirement age benefit, and say you're only getting a 20% haircut now because you claimed a year later than you actually did. So they recalculate it. Now you're getting 20% reduction instead of 25 for the rest of your life. So they give you a brand new check starting from that point. It's higher for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's how you get your
It's still a reduced amount, but it is higher than,
exactly. It's a lesser reduced amount because they're adding back all those years of that you didn't get payments as if you didn't claim. They're adding it to your start date.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So as an example, you claimed at 62 and you were getting $910 a month. You had a year's worth of benefits withheld because you were making above the earnings limit. When you hit your full retirement age, they recalculate it and say, instead of withholding 25, we're gonna 25% haircut. We're giving you 20% haircut. 25 goes to 20. Now your benefit goes to 975.
Yeah.
And that 975 continues for the rest of your life. Yeah. This doesn't include cost of living and all that jazz. So it's just dollar for dollar. That's how that works.
Yeah.
So you do get it back. It's not all lost. The government's not totally evil.
Right.
Can you imagine, though? Could you imagine they just didn't give it to you and never gave it back? Ooh,
but it didn't really help you, because it's the same as you just went through the process of filing at 62 for no reason then.
Correct. And so in your friend's case, his check at 67, assuming he didn't see any of his checks, was what he would have gotten at 67 anyway.
Yeah.
Except he went through the rigmarole of filing at 62, and so he kind of limited himself.
He didn't stop working until he was 70.
Right, but his check started at 67.
Yeah,
and he could at that point at 67, he could have suspended his benefits and waited till 70, So
Yeah.
he could have made that decision then, but he probably was like, "No, I already," right? Yeah.
No, he didn't. Yeah, he didn't.
So just as a recap, the limits are in 2026, 24,480. And then the year you turn your full retirement age, it goes up to 65,160. It only counts earned income, not the passive withdrawals from your IRA. The 1099 is the gray area, but it does count if it's active, not passive. And then once you hit your full retirement age, you get all the benefits back that were withheld if you happen to go above the earnings limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That earnings
So I
limit, though, is low, and it hasn't been changed for a long time.
It is low. It is low,
They
and
need to
inflation
change
has
that.
made it. Yeah. I don't know.
It's
Inflation has really eaten up a lot of people, so
yeah,
I'm not sure if the government's gonna ever change that, but if you think about from the government's perspective, they don't want people retiring early, they because that's
no.
less money, that's more money coming out. They'd rather
Yeah,
people continue to work to
yeah,
keep the system
of course.
sustainable. So why would they raise that earnings limit? I don't know.
Yeah, they're not gonna, but it's not
Right.
adjusted for inflation.
No, no. But it could be, you work part-time, make 20,000 and you get 20,000 Social Security. So you kind of blend those two together and it's the same. But again, though, Tony, you're locking in that low number.
Yes.
It's a big decision.
Which isn't
If
the
you're
right
concerned
isn't right
about it,
for everyone. It's not
right.
right
And so
for everyone.
when people come to me and they ask me when should I do it, should I claim? One of the questions I ask is, are you married? That's not were you ever married? Also, are you continuing to work and how much are you earning?
Yeah,
And it's not because I'm interested in just making life difficult for you. I want to figure out the earnings limit and then put it in my software. So when I run a Social Security maximization report, it'll include earnings limit tests. So it'll show you whether or not claiming early makes sense based on your income as well. And
yeah,
by the way, it's just your income, not your spouse's income. So
right.
your spouse can still be making millions and you can get all your Social Security check. It's your own income because it's your own benefit.
But when you
If you
file
want the
can affect your spouse later on if you pass.
Absolutely, absolutely it
Yeah,
can. The survivor benefit is locked in based
yeah,
on when you claim.
yeah.
And we've done countless shows on that. If you're interested in the Social Security maximization report, I put the QR code at the top above Tony's head. Just click on that and let me know, and we'll create the Social Security maximization report for you. We don't charge for that. But again, Tony, that I just want hoping people realize this is a real thing, the earnings limit. It's not as scary as it needs to be. It is complex because, as we know, the government likes to make things complex.
Of course
But
they do.
but whatever. It is what it is. So until we get the old Australian pension system in play, which we did a show on,
Yeah,
we're going to be
right.
dealing with this type of nonsense for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And well, actually, what 2032 we're done. We're done with this, so we'll see.
Supposedly, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, thanks for a good show, Tony. We'll catch everyone next week.